Come on, come on, come on. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back again to the Snug Wrestling Podcast. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I know I did. And we are back again to talk about Monday Night Raw. It feels like we're getting closer and closer to WrestleMania because we are. This Monday Night Raw definitely felt like WrestleMania season. And we're going to talk about the main things that went down on Monday Night Raw, like the steel cage match, the returns. Cody Rhodes was in the building. We heard from the new women's champion, Io Sky, and everything that you must know that went down here on Monday Night Raw. They were in the Madison Square Garden, the home of the WWE, the home base, also the home of legendary steel cage matches. And I think it's safe to say we can add another legendary steel cage match in Madison Square Garden with the CM Punk versus Seth Rollins steel cage match. But before we get into it, fellas, I have Mr. Blood, Toxic Tommy, and BT Knight here with me. I want to get this addressed first. The Travis Scott update with the WWE. I don't know all the details, but this is what I know, and you guys can add more to this if you guys know more about this than me. But Bully Ray recently shared his thoughts on the slap that Travis Scott gave Cody Rhodes at the Elimination Chamber. Bully Ray wasn't really a big fan of this either. I don't remember verbatim the quote that Bully Ray said, but it was nothing good. It was nothing positive. And then Travis Scott went to Instagram, and I believe he left a comment on one of those videos or one of the quotes by Bully Ray. And Travis Scott put in his comment, "I will slap the shit out of Bully Ray just like I slapped Cody Rhodes." And Bully Ray, of course, is, Bubba Dudley, a legend. He's still a big part of wrestling today, and he's an icon. So I want to hear your thoughts really quick about this comment by Travis Scott. How do you guys feel about this? And what did you guys think? Mr. Blood, let's go with you.
So this is the first time I'm hearing about it, which is surprising because I'm usually really well programmed into the daily wrestling news. It's the first thing I listen to in the morning, last thing I listen to in the evening. As far as Bubba Ray's concerned, look, I love the Busted Open radio channel, their podcast, Dave LaGreca, Mark Henry, Bubba Ray Dudley, Nick Nemeth. It's awesome. I love listening to them. But there's one thing that is very unanimously popular as an opinion about that show is that Bubba Ray Dudley is way too sanctimonious. Um, I don't know if anybody else on this podcast has ever watched his podcast, but he is known for exercising his experience in professional wrestling as this is how it should be. This is the correct way to do things because I'm a pro wrestler. And I get that in the business of pro wrestling, it's very egocentric. I find myself agreeing with Bubba Dudley about 40% of the time when he speaks on opinions. This is one of those things where I do actually agree with Bubba Ray Dudley because even though I'm not familiar with his comments, I'm 100% sure I know what he said because I watch the show every day. Um, and I'm pretty sure something along the lines of it was unsafe, shouldn't have happened, yada, yada, yada. And if that's what his opinions were, then I would echo those because my thing is if you're going to go out there and you're involved in a segment and you can't just stop Travis Scott in the middle of a segment that is that big to coach him on the do's and don'ts of shoot wrestling and kayfabe,
I
you
actually have
probably
the
should have had.
exact quote here, really quick, if you don't
Here,
mind.
let me hear it. Let me hear it. Let me hear it. Let me hear it.
Bully Ray on Travis Scott. Travis Scott deserves to have his jaw shattered and wired shut. It's when the mark in the ring all of a sudden decides that he's a pro wrestler and he knows what the hell he's doing, and that mark is Travis Scott.
Okay, so yeah, he's calling him a mark, which is, wrestling speak for essentially a guy who buys way too much into himself and what's going on in the ring, and essentially is, smoking his own sage, even though that's not what Travis Scott brings into the ring. But essentially, when it comes down to it, Bubba's comments could go be seen one of two ways. Bubba is works for the WWE again. for LFG. And as far as I'm concerned, this could be him just stirring the pot to kind of help Travis Scott maybe build some heat online now that he's also involved in this angle. Even Cody mentioned him tonight in his promo, talking about that it was John Cena's entourage, or in that group, his what was the word he used? His associates. And you could either see this as one as Bubba Ray trying to help build the heat around Travis Scott, or two, his honest opinions, where he sees a guy who is not a wrestler, who, however, by the way, is being trained in professional wrestling right now. If you don't know that, Travis Scott is currently being trained, so he could be involved at WrestleMania. But I can see where Bubba, as a person who, by all accounts, through his career, has been a very safe worker, sees someone like Travis Scott going overboard in a segment that genuinely injured Cody Rhodes. It burst his eardrum, and it also blacked his eye and gashed his eyelid. It was a very stiff, snug, no pun intended, shoot hit in the face. And you could see that when John Cena was holding his Cody's legs down, John Cena couldn't break character. Though if you go back and you look at John Cena's eyes when he makes that hit, there's a moment in John Cena's eyes where he's like, "Oh shit," and because he saw how stiff it was, and The Rock, he's selling, so he can't just be like, hey, whoa, 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 don't do that. That's a little too much. He can't do that because they're in the middle of this heated segment. He's got to let it sell. And Cody could have just been like, yo, what the fuck, Travis, and hit him back, but Cody's got to sell it. And it's not hard to sell a shoot hit. So Travis Scott's response is also something you could see as one of two ways. Someone from WWE probably contacted him and said, hey, feed into it, get some heat on yourself, say something along these lines in a retweet or on this post. Or Travis Scott legitimately was like, yo, what the fuck are you coming after me for? I don't know you. I'm richer than you. I'm more famous than you. Go fuck yourself. I'm doing whatever the fuck I do. I'm friends with The Rock. You can kiss my ass, and I'll slap the shit out you just like I slapped the shit out of fucking Cody. And he's taking it too seriously. And also, while doing that comment, if it's not in kayfabe, that comment, and it's a shoot comment, he's feeding into what Bubba's saying when Bubba's calling him a mark. So, because that's how a mark would respond to, in that way to what Bubba said. Um, all in all, I don't think he should have hit Cody that way. I think before that segment, they should have told Travis, if you're going to come out with us, and we're getting physical, yada yada, let's run through it. This is what's going to happen. They either should have told Travis, you either hit him or you don't. And if you do hit him, they should have coached him on the day. This is how you need to hit him. You need to open palm it very gently. You slap here so you don't burst the eardrum. Because in pro wrestling training, we are trained that if we do slaps like that, we are trained where to hit on the face specifically, because you will burst someone's eardrum if you smack them too hard. We are trained to slap properly in pro wrestling. And that was not a trained fucking slap. That was a, where's my money?
Yeah, when it comes to the slap, we've seen it. I've seen it countless times, and yeah, I think we could all agree that that was really unnecessary. But did you also think, last question here, Mister Blood, before we move on, um, that comment by Travis Scott? I mean, the way that I saw it was like the WWE has made me dislike Travis Scott. I'm a huge fan of his music. I've been to his live shows before. He puts on great performances. But and then the slap on Cody wasn't good. I wasn't a fan of that. And then this comment on Bully Ray, I'm also not a fan of that, because Bully Ray, he's a legend. He's an icon who deserves respect from everyone. It doesn't matter who the fuck you are, especially if you're coming into his world, the pro wrestling world. You, I don't care if you're Travis Scott, you shouldn't be disrespecting people like that. This is getting, yes, it's getting him heat, but it's not the right kind of heat. Like, I
No,
don't know,
I mean,
man.
to a point, it's one of the things that could wind up generating go away heat. But the thing is that when it comes to this retort from Travis Scott,
Hmm.
like I said, it could be taken one of two ways. It's either a shoot reply because he's heated and feeling attacked in a public forum and he has his own brand to protect, or it's a kayfabe response that WWE said, hey, we're in the age of social media now. We do this in storylines. We build storylines up on social media with replies, with comments, because they did it all with Drew McIntyre. and they can say, "This is what we want you to say," or say this along the lines of this.
Okay.
And so, until the thing is, because we don't know if those comments were shoot or kayfabe, it's hard to pass too much judgment on Travis Scott because he is playing a heel currently on TV. This is a heel response, and if it isn't a shoot, if it isn't cape, or if it is a shoot, not kayfabe, in all honesty, no disrespect to Bubba Ray Dudley, I reply the same way because you had nothing to do with my segment. You can comment all you want, but if you're gonna blast me on a public forum like that, bitch, I'm gonna talk shit back to you.
All right.
You
Fair
know,
enough. Let's move
you know.
on. Tommy, go ahead.
What I will say is this. This reminds me a little bit of one of the first clips that was revealed for LFG. When one of them had a problem with Bubba when he did not shake his hand.
Mm.
That one clip of that promo, it just reminds me so much of it. Because just like with Travis right now, he feels a little bit disrespected, just like he did. And at this point, I just cannot stop thinking that this situation with Travis is exactly like that.
Mm. All right. BT, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not really, because I don't follow up on all of this stuff that goes on in interviews or fucking like podcasts and things like that. I'm just the guy that watches the show and all of that stuff. But if I was to look at the stuff that Travis was commenting, that because I'm just like one of those fucking people that just sees stuff like that and then just immediately thinks because he's a heel, he's just getting the heel heat. Like that's just my view on it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a lot of opinions on it. So those are my thoughts.
Right on. Toxic, any thoughts on this thing with Travis Scott and Bully Ray?
I've not really ever been a fan of Travis. No, I've only heard like a couple of his songs. But I do find it disrespectful, even if he's playing the part as a heel, to say that to a legend like Bubba Ray Dudley or Bully Ray or whatever the hell you want to call him. I just feel like if you want to talk shit to someone, talk shit to someone that hasn't been there for a while, like someone that's like, I don't know, Cody or someone else. But if it's a legend talking about you, I feel like you should just zip your fucking mouth.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. All right, you guys, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I want to hear what you guys thought about that. But let's start with the main event, the CM Punk versus Seth Rollins steel cage match, and I am gonna say it. I hate to say it, but I'm gonna say it. Mr. Blood, you were right again. Mr. Blood called this last week when we were talking about what can happen, what can we see come out of this cage match, and he said Roman Reigns. This is a perfect opportunity, Madison Square Garden, steel cage match, Roman Reigns to show up and get his revenge on Seth Rollins. That's exactly what happened after a brutal match between Seth Rollins and CM Punk. What a hell of a roller coaster ride they took us on. And we're going to talk about it, you guys, because I'm going to be honest. There was a lot of great things that I liked about this. There was a lot of things that I didn't like about it. For one, the number of false finishes and finishers. I mean, we're talking about at least 3 go to sleeps and stomps. They were kicking out of everything. Now, I understand the reasoning behind that. And also, they could have ended this match like there was multiple times where they just opened up the door and they could have just walked out. Again, I understand why they didn't. They were trying to say, we've been waiting for a long time to get our hands on each other. We want to beat each other up. This is not about winning the match. But also, on the other hand, it kind of is about winning the match because that's the whole point of this. If you're watching this for the first time, you're probably wondering, why don't they just go for the win? Why don't they just go for the pin? Why don't they just walk out, be the winner, and that's it? But that's not really how things went down. It wasn't until Roman Reigns showed up and actually dragged Seth Rollins out of the cage. In a way, Roman Reigns helped Seth Rollins win this match. And also, at the same time, Roman Reigns caused CM Punk the match. So now CM Punk has a reason to go after Roman Reigns. And it looks like we're getting this whole three-way situation. It's all coming together. Paul Heyman was also thrown in the mix in there, seeing kind of help out, his old friend CM Punk. Roman Reigns wasn't happy about that. Roman Reigns took out Seth Rollins and CM Punk tonight at Madison Square Garden. All right, Mr. Blood, let's go with you first. I guess my question to you is, what did you think about the match? Did you feel like me, like there was too many false finishes? Or did you think this match was just perfect from top to bottom?
Well, first things first. When you said he grabbed Seth out of the ring, that's a nice way of putting that. He snatched that boy's ass out of that ring like he was a kid getting in trouble at a store trying to take a toy with him. Fucking Roman snatched that boy out of there like he was trying to whoop his ass and humble it for stealing, bro. He snatched him like a mom. That was the old "I'm a father of five" snatch. But literally, as far as the match is concerned, I thought it was excellent. And here's the funny thing: I genuinely forgot that this match was tonight until the show started because I was so excited for it last week, and for some reason I blanked on it until the opener when they announced the advertised main event, and I got excited. Um, this match I thought was fucking excellent. I thought it was awesome. Um, I loved Punk getting worked over. I loved the aggression of it. Punk's back getting bruised up almost immediately from the start of the match. His lip was bleeding. It just right out the gate, the first like 6 minutes is just you see Seth is like, I finally have you where I want you. You can't, there's nowhere else that you can go. It's in here or not at all. And when he opened the cage door and he's like, come on, he's like, why don't you walk out, give up and quit and prove to everybody that I'm right about you. That you pack it up and you take your ball and you go home when things are too tough. And Punk was just flipped him off, gave him the bird, closed the door, and they went back at it until Punk did the same thing later on in the match, opened that door and said, "You want to come out? You want to get out now? You want to leave? Because as far as I'm concerned, you want this with me. I'm trying to be done with you." And he flipped him off. I thought it was great. The way that they were even stealing finishers, I thought was awesome. GTS into a curb stomp by fucking Seth Rollins. I thought Punk stealing stealing the stomp was also awesome. Punk tried to go for a super stomp, which I believe he nicknamed the super stomp the blackout. The superplex from the top of the cage. I mean, the match had so much going for it. I mean, it wasn't exactly a technical classic by any means. This was really just, I'm going to destroy you as much as possible, and you're going to destroy me as much as possible. And neither of us is taking the easy way out of this match, which makes it even more interesting the fact that Rollins won the match by getting dragged out of the ring. So now Punk can claim, you didn't beat me. Your boy Roman helped you beat me. And then Seth's going to go, he's not my boy. He's not my friend anymore. And that's going to lead to the triple threat. And what I thought was awesome about the match was, though, and here's the thing, I do agree with you that there were, in my opinion, maybe two false finishes too many. Because the match, because when I looked at my phone, it was like 10:21 or 10:22. We'd already had like 3 false finishes, I think, by that point. And by the time the match ended, we had like another 3. I thought Seth won off the fucking GTS and the curb stomp. I thought it was over. And when Punk kicked out, I was like, the fuck? Because I thought they were going to give Punk a clean win over Seth, or I thought they were going to give Seth a clean win over Punk for the first time because Punk's won their last bout too. So and if I remember correctly, he eliminated him from the Rumble, right? So I'm sitting here thinking that okay, well they've let Punk take 80% of this thing and prove he's more dominant than Seth. Well, they got to give Seth the win, right? And I'm thinking, well, Roman's going to come out after, but no, I'm Punk kicks out, which shocked me. If you ask me, if you got rid of the previous two false finishes before that finish, that false finish, that should have been the final false finish of the match. Get rid of the two that came before it and put that one in its place as the singular one great false finish of the match. I think the match would be perfect. Um, but I thought that it was kind of poetry that Seth didn't get to win on his own. I think that is going to play into it because Seth's entire career, from the Shield to now, he was able to win because he had the Shield. Then he was able to win because he had the authority. Then he was able to win because he had the Authors of Pain when he was the Monday Night Messiah, right? And then he was able to win because he has his friends in War Games. So, and his whole career is a story of the biggest payoff matches that he's needed to win. He's always had help. Someone's been there to back him up. Hell, he couldn't beat The Rock and Roman even with Cody. And then on the final night, Cody's only able to beat Roman because of Seth. So then you also have, we get to the Royal Rumble, where the only reason that the fucking Seth lost is because of Punk and his obsession and hatred of Roman. So this is literally just this perfect kind of poetry happening here in so many different facets of Punk seems that he can never get anything done without a team or backup or someone there. But when it comes to him finally being able to win the ones he needs to win, he screws himself through his own insecurity and obsession with his own rage at the people he's fighting, i.e., Drew McIntyre, i.e., CM Punk, i.e., Roman Reigns, i.e., Bronson Reed. Just a few examples in the last 2 years. Every time he takes his eye off the ball when he's the one who could win because there's someone else there that he can't stop focusing on. And this is the one time where he was going to win because he wasn't focused on anybody else but the man in the ring. He just stomped through the mat. And then the guy he's obsessed with and focused on yanks him out of the fucking match. And he only wins because the guy he stabbed in the fucking back 11 years ago helped him win. The same guy he stabbed in the back a year ago to help Cody win. It's fucking perfect. So minus those two false finishes and just give us the GTS into the curb stomp as a finish or a false finish, then the match is perfect. But I agree, it's two false finishes too many.
All right, Toxic.
Um, I found the Roman Reigns helping Seth Rollins part interesting because in multiple interviews with Seth Rollins, he says, "I do not like or like I don't know." It's something along the lines of, "I don't hate Roman Reigns," or "I don't like Roman Reigns. I hate Roman Reigns," or "I like whatever." You get my point. So there's still that love-hate relationship between them, even though we don't see them a lot, but we're seeing them now, which will lead up into the what we think is the triple threat at WrestleMania, and I just love this match. Seth Rollins dressing up like SpongeBob from the second movie, and CM Punk just being Punk. Love this match.
Right on. Tommy and then BT.
Okay, so For the people that don't understand why this match is a big deal, these two have hated each other for the past 10 years plus. They, at least a little bit before Punk dropped out. Like, these two have despised each other for a long, long time. But with this match, I was expecting a little bit of color because of how much these two hate each other. Didn't get that, sadly. But it still worked out. Because even when given the opportunity to, they both said, fuck you, I'm not leaving until you are done. These two were that into it. And with Roman coming out, what Blood said is that made sense because now Punk can say, you didn't beat me properly. All this time, you've never been able to beat me properly. You've always had somebody helping you. And this will inevitably, let's be honest here, lead to one of what's probably going to end up being 2 triple threats at WrestleMania. And when it does, it's going to be a great match. But it's very clear that Roman still holds everything against Rollins. It took half of the damn security at least to stop Roman from doing exactly what Rollins did to him at the Rumble. When he stomped him into the steel chair. Not steel chair. Blah, blah. English. Brain. When he stomped him into the steel stairs. But still, these three, just like when it comes to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, these three will fight forever. Let's be honest here. These three are absolutely just destined to constantly go head to head.
Yeah, there was there was no, you're right about the no color thing, and I was kind of surprised by that, but there was a really, they kept it PG. I mean, when CM Punk and Seth Rollins were flipping each other off, the screens would go black. You know, they were getting muted all the time, and I'm like, man, like, this is Netflix. All the fucking nudity that's on Netflix, but they want to edit out like the middle fingers and like the little curse words and things like that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. BT Knight, what did you think about this match?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for my thoughts on CM Punk versus Twilight Sparkle as a transgender. Let's get into this bullshit, shall we? Now, motherfucking, this match was awesome. Loved every single second of it. Loved how the finish went. The security pissed me off, though, because I wanted to see that curb stomp on Seth so fucking badly. I mean, we did get that, like, on the floor, but I wanted to see it on the steel steps. So I kind of got pissed off. But the best part was seeing Paul Heyman caring for CM Punk in the ring. And you could see the look on Roman, like, oh, really, motherfucker? You care about him more than me? His egotistical side is coming back. It's snapping in. The way he's like, this motherfucker. Nah, none of my ring, bitch. And the way he just comes in and just destroys him while Paul is just laying in the corner. He's like, Okay, I respect you, my tribal chief. I respect you, my tribal chief. He's desperate at this point. But overall, I enjoyed the match. I loved every single second of it. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm just getting picky when I say, too many of this or why they didn't do that. But overall, it was awesome. Like the match itself, but also we got to see Roman Reigns come back. We got to see Paul Heyman. We got to see Paul Heyman helping out CM Punk, and you know there's history there. So there's a lot of stuff happening here. It builds up to it builds interest as to like, oh, what's gonna happen next? We think it's gonna be a three-way, but just really quick, Mr. Blood, let's finish up this segment. Go ahead.
I meant to say this, but here's the reason why the false finishes worked here and why they wouldn't work in AEW. It comes back to something that The Undertaker has said on his podcast, 6 Feet Under, many times. If you're going to do it, these kinds of false finishes, because we're in the day and age where no finisher is really protected anymore, to where it would have been a one and done, like the leg drop from Hogan. You got hit with that, it was over. You got hit with the tombstone, it was over. Almost no one ever kicked out of those, except for a handful of very select people. But the reason it works in WWE is because they still sell when they do those false finishes. And they sell and they stay down and they sell. And they roll over and their eyes roll in the back of their heads and they're dazed. And they're like, what the hell just happened? In AEW, when they do these crazy false finishes, they'll get hit with the craziest move you've ever seen in your life because they're still incredible athletes. But they will pop back up and hit you with their own finisher as a counter, and they'll both go down and then get back up and stand there for the ovation. That's why these false finishes make more sense when WWE does it, because their mentality in WWE is to still sell the effect of those false finishes, the energy it took to kick out. The commentary puts over, God, he must have put everything left in the tank to get his arm up. Oh my God.
I don't know,
But
Mr. Blood. I saw Seth Rollins take multiple GTS and a stomp, and he got back up in like 30 seconds.
No, he was down for a hot minute. He was rolling around, cradling his face, rolling his eyes back, trying to figure out where Punk was and get his hand back on his leg to stop him from trying to get out of the ring. They sell it. In AEW, you'll get hit with a fucking spear, a BTE trigger, and you'll pop back up and just hit a crazy fucking move. And then you'll be like, yeah, standing ovation.
I think the difference here is when they do it in the WWE, they do it in like important matches like these, as opposed to it's more common to do it in AEW in like almost every match.
It's sparingly used. But this also makes me think of one last thing, and I'm going to pass it back to you because I didn't comment on it. Heyman consoling Punk when he was whispering to him. I have a strange feeling that Punk's not going to use the favor to make this a triple threat. It's going to be a triple threat without the favor. What if, hear me out here, what if the favor is that whoever wins the triple threat gets to be inserted into the title match on night 2?
For which title?
What? I'm going to say Cody's. What if the favor is either winner faces the champion after their match or is inserted into their match? What if the favor is to get Paul Heyman to use his pull to turn this triple threat into a number one contenders match? Because at the end of the day, this is the first time Roman's been in a Mania without a title belt in a long time, or a title even having to be involved in it. So imagine if this favor isn't just to make this a basic triple threat. It's the winner gets inserted into the main event.
Yeah, except they're all on Raw.
Doesn't matter. The winner of the Rumble got to choose who was left over. Or sorry, winner of the Rumble chose their person. Elimination Chamber winner got to choose who was left over. So they could. What if they turn this into a triple threat against Jey Uso or Cody?
Yeah, I mean that favor is still out there. We don't know what the favor is going to be.
you got to assume that favor's coming into play at Mania.
I think the favor is not going to be as crazy because I think the match is probably at WrestleMania. It's probably going to be Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, and maybe the favor would be let's add CM Punk to that match and make it a 3-way.
What a waste of the favor, though, in my opinion, because he's already involved in it because Roman's already attacked him too. He's now a part of it by proxy. Why
Yeah.
waste the favor getting me into a feud I'm already in?
Yeah, no, you're right. It would
I mean,
it would be very very like kind
it'd
of
be lackluster.
worthless. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just don't see Jay Uso sharing his moment, his spotlight that
I
he
don't.
deserves with the third
Yeah,
person.
I agree. I don't think they should take the moment from Jay. I think it should be inserting them into Cody. Personally, I don't think if they do that, I'd say
Yeah.
let Jay have his night in the sun.
Yeah, well, see, that's why this match was so great because we're all
Possibilities.
interested in what the possibilities are, what's going to happen next, what's the big favor, how
It's
is Paul
yeah.
Heyman fall in all of this, and it's WrestleMania season, y'all, and I'm
It's
pumped.
it's crazy to think that this is what WWE is today. And if you were to backtrack 3 years ago, you never would have seen any of these matchups, these combinations, anywhere near the realm of possibility outside of fantasy booking. It's insanely, insanely good TV right
All right, what's up, Tommy?
So yeah, I honestly completely agree with Blood with the question of why would you waste the favor making it a triple threat with Punk and Roman when your entire mission since you debuted was to main event WrestleMania and you have yet to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I just don't see like the main event, Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. That's big enough. Like I think if you throw CM Punk in either of the title matches, I as much as I would love to see CM Punk main event
now.
WrestleMania for a championship, I don't want to
But
see
Punk would
him
make sense.
in this WrestleMania.
Punk would make sense though in the Cody John because John took advantage in the
Mm.
Elimination Chamber on Punk, and Cody was already warned by CM Punk that it's me who's coming for you, but I'm gonna get you in the front, not in the back.
But
He's
how would Paul
already
Heyman get him in the title
Paul
picture?
Heyman's because of Paul Heyman's pool. Paul Heyman still has pull. Paul Heyman's not only a road agent, he's a producer and he's a talent advisor. He has pull in
Yeah,
WWE. That's canon even on TV.
but not on screen. We don't know that.
No, that's been mentioned on screen before. He has pull to do that. He has because Roman is the tribal chief, because the high chief is the director of the board. And there's a direct link between Paul and the Anawahi family. All he has to do is make one call. So
But
it's
as you
very possible.
with The Rock, even from last year, building up to last year's Mania, one of the big things was him going, call Roman Reigns, call The Rock, so he can immediately call The Rock as one of his clients, essentially.
The
Yeah,
Anawahi family are all clients of Paul Heyman in WWE canon. The whole family, the Anawahi Maivia dynasty, those are his clients in canon.
well, damn. I think you guys are onto something.
It'll
I
be
think
crazy to see.
that actually does make a little sense now that I think about it.
It'll be cool. But I digress.
All right. Tommy earlier mentioned that there's a possibility that we might see two triple threat matches. One being possibly Roman Reigns versus Punk versus Seth Rollins. The second match could possibly be Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. We heard a little bit from Io Sky, the new women's champion, tonight after she, out of everyone's surprise, defeated Rhea Ripley last week, and she's going to WrestleMania. She had an in-ring interview with Michael Cole, and then they called out the challenger Bianca Belair. We had the champion and the challenger for WrestleMania, but here comes a pissed off Rhea Ripley interrupting the segment and letting it be known, hey, why did you do what you did last week? You interfered in the match, and were you doing it to help out Io Sky? Were you doing it because you didn't want to face me one-on-one? Bianca claims she's innocent in all this, but the thing that they did here that it's really important to note is that you have Rhea Ripley, you have Bianca face to face, and Io Sky is just in the middle. She's kind of just there. And I think after the way that things went down last week, everyone was saying, "What? Why?" The match for Mania was supposed to be Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, not Io Sky. And WWE is kind of addressing those comments or those reports. You know, the people that were upset about Io Sky going into WrestleMania. Io Sky is demanding respect, and she kind of did that tonight by stepping in the middle of Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley and slapping them both across the face and basically telling not just them two, but everyone at home and in the arena, don't forget about me. I'm the champion. Put some respect on my name. What did you guys think about this? BT, let's start with you first.
Hell of a statement from Io Sky. I fully support her. I fully support her on that. Because I know everybody wanted Rhea versus Bianca. Like, I wanted that too. But Io being in that match, like, making it a triple threat would be fucking awesome. But Bianca versus Io as well? That's a hell of a match in itself as well. So, Io isn't a fucking pushover. So she's not going to fucking stand back and cop this disrespect. So I fully stand with Io on that. And by the way, Bianca was pissing me off as well. So those are my thoughts.
Toxic?
With the whole Io slapping Rhea and Bianca, I feel like she's making a statement saying, hey, you two, you want to push me around like I'm nothing, like I'm not the one holding the gold? You know what? I'm going to slap both of you in the face, and then I'm going to go talk to one of the GMs or Triple H and make this a triple threat at WrestleMania. But I will agree with Blood and BT, even though Blood hasn't gone yet. Bianca's starting to piss me off. I like her more in the Naomi and Jade story. I feel like she's being inserted into another story at the same time, and it's pissing me off. It's also pissing me off that it wasn't a DQ last week, and it should have been. So those are my thoughts.
Tommy and then Blood.
Yeah, I'm with it. I really want this to be a triple threat because the main thought was Bianca and Rhea. Obviously, that did not happen, but there's one thing that Io kind of reminds me of, and that is Asuka back when Becky basically just handed her the title after she found out she was pregnant and all of that. And Asuka just goes, I am the champion! I am the champion! I am the champion! It that's basically Io's entire thing now. Is every time she's champion of any sort, her immediate response is just, I am the champion! I am the champion! And it just makes me laugh every time. But this is going to end up being a triple threat. And if it's not, Triple H, you're doing it wrong. Because it absolutely should be.
So as far as the segment's concerned, I thought It was good. Myself personally, I because it's no secret that prior to Elimination Chamber, I thought the only person, in my opinion, who made sense in the match to win was Bailey. Um, I thought she was the only person, in my opinion, I thought should have won the chamber. I thought Bianca's involved in a whole other story. Why are you going to interject her into another story when that other story at the start of their chamber match hit a whole second gear? And it's like, okay, well, good, this is cooking. So why are you stretching her across the brands? And why did she win? Because none of us wanted Morgan to win. No one wanted to see Rhea v. Morgan again. No one really thought Roxanne Perez was going to win, but it was going to be a really cool moment if she did and great for her career. No one thought Alexa Bliss returning automatically inserting her into a Mania match made sense because she's clearly going to be involved in the Wyatt Six. So why on earth are you going to have her in a Mania match at for a championship? And Bailey really was the only one that fucking made sense. And I really wanted to see Bailey v. Rhea at Mania. Talk about that match. Okay? Talk about the match that would have been. Come on. Mommy versus one of the four horsewomen. Sign me the fuck up. So for me, when Bianca won, I was like, okay, well, it wasn't Bailey, but there's one thing I know about Bianca, and there's one thing I know about Rhea. These girls can work. They can work. And Bianca has proven in more than one title match at WrestleMania that that woman can put on a fucking classic with just about any opponent when it's on the biggest stage of them all. Her versus freaking her versus Sasha, still one of the greatest Mania matches I've ever seen in my life. So for me, I was like, okay, this is awesome. Cool. Then last week happens. And we randomly hot potato this shit onto EO. And all I could think was, this makes no sense to me. The bigger match, we already talked about this, is Bianca v. Rhea, just as a one-on-one. Io is popular, but to say she's a massive superstar in professional wrestling is not exactly true. In Japan, sure. By North American standards of other promotions, is she a bigger star than women in AEW, women in TNA, women in here and there? Yeah, sure. But in WWE, you heard it tonight when she came out. The crowd went mild. Barely a pop for this girl. And she's your new women's world heavyweight champion. And they didn't, I mean, you would think that, because if that was Rhea holding the title coming out, the crowd would have fucking erupted. Like they always do. They erupt for her when she's not the champion. So when I thought it was great because I was like, okay, we know Rhea's going to come out and they're going to make Io an instant afterthought. That was the first thing I thought. They're going to make her an afterthought because she does not compare star power wise to Bianca or Rhea. She just doesn't. In ring talent and ability, 100%. Okay? She's one of the best to ever fucking step in a WWE ring and do it. Period. That is Io Sky. Okay? Then when she smacked the shit out of both of them, the first thing I thought was, this is how they're making sure she doesn't become an afterthought. She's forcing her way back into our minds by going, hey, I'm still here, motherfuckers. You guys are beefing, but don't forget what you're beefing over. This thing right here that I'm holding. And I thought, what a great way to make sure she's not an afterthought. But then I immediately realized a massive problem we're going to have after Mania. Are we just going to automatically hot potato it back onto Rhea? So fans start feeling stale on Rhea as a champion because, oh, they put it on her again. We're going to just, put it on Bianca so she can hot brands to Raw and then we don't get any kind of crossover conclusion to her rivalry with Naomi or Jade, if that ever happens. Okay? Because she's on SmackDown, let's not forget. So if Io wins at Mania, then we're faced with the biggest problem. Her title run. It's gonna be horrible. And I'll tell you why. Her last one was terrible because the entire time she was champion, she was involved in the storyline with uh, fucking Damage Control and her arguments with Bailey. If you remember, Io barely defended that title when she fucking held it. She went like at one point 2.5 months
I
without a defense.
I think we're getting a little bit too ahead of ourselves now here, Mister Blood.
Well, but
Because
this feeds into what I'm saying. This is a triple threat now at Mania. It's going to be. This segment sets that up. The problem is it falls apart after that triple threat match because you now immediately come to the problem where you might ruin any one of these girls' characters or momentum because you had to make it a triple threat and you had to put it on Io and you shouldn't have. You should have put it on
everyone
her at Mania
everyone
if she was in
likes
a one-on-one.
everyone likes an underdog story, and I think that that's what they're going to try to do here. They're going to make people care about Io Sky, and I'm actually kind of rooting for her now because you're right. I don't want to see the title being hot potato. I want to see Io Sky beat Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. Also, it's a triple threat match. Rhea Ripley doesn't have to be the one to take the pin. It
That's
could
true.
that way that Rhea Ripley is protected. Bianca Belair, you know, it doesn't hurt
Yeah.
her to lose a triple threat
No,
match.
no, because she
Also,
wins most of her Mania matches.
Io Sky, Io Sky, I'm sorry, I should say it like this. Rhea Ripley has never beaten Io Sky. And that was one of
True.
the things that I forgot to mention last week when Io Sky defeated Rhea Ripley. Io Sky is 3-0 versus Rhea Ripley since 2018. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that either WWE needs to shed more light on and to kind of put Io Sky over as a more serious threat versus Rhea Ripley. Like, hey, she may be small, she may not be like as charismatic, but
Well,
she
here's the
Rhea Ripley, our biggest star, has not been able to beat her.
well, here's the other problem you face now. Because if they tell that story, if that's the story they choose to tell, that hey, Rhea, you've never been able to beat Io. What happens if they let Rhea beat Io at Mania? What was the point of swapping the title?
Which is
Because
why
if
Io
that's the
Sky
story
has
you
to win.
tell, if that's the story you choose to tell, you kind of have to have Rhea beat her to finally set that record straight now, don't you? So the problem is, once that's done, let's say Io does win. Now we've just said, hey, Rhea's not the best on this roster, like we've been telling y'all. She's never been able to beat this chick.
What's wrong with
Who does she
that?
feud with? But I'm saying it starts to chip away at the characters you've already built.
Do you think
Rhea's
the
this
people are gonna?
indestructible, unbeatable monster, and now you just said, hey, you can never beat this chick. You're not as good as we said you were.
We just established that it wouldn't hurt Rhea Ripley if she doesn't win at WrestleMania. The fans are not gonna stop cheering for Rhea Ripley
They're
if
not
Io
gonna they're
Sky
not gonna
wins.
stop cheering. They're not gonna stop cheering for her. But whoever wins that title at Mania, if Io does, it doesn't help that title because what stories do you tell after?
Mhm. Tommy, what do you think?
Here's the big thing that I've noticed that none of you have mentioned. She's not the only one that's currently undefeated against someone. Yes, she has yet, like, Rhea has yet to beat her. But you know who else is undefeated? Bianca at WrestleMania. She has yet to lose a WrestleMania. So there's the dilemma there. Do we keep the title on Io and have it be so stale that almost nobody pops for? Do we put it back on Rhea and put it to where she finally beats Io? Or do we keep Bianca's streak going?
I wouldn't call that a dilemma. I would call that just makes it a little bit more interesting. If this thing does become a three-way, which I'm pretty sure it is, because we don't know who's gonna win it now, and that's the beauty of this. Yeah, BT.
I think the main part of the problem was that the women's elimination chamber was just put together terribly, and it made no fucking sense. I mean, the only person that I thought logically made sense was just to push Roxanne Perez as this fucking meteoric rise because she's known as the prodigy. Like, what a fucking statement that would have been for her to go up against Rhea or Io at fucking WrestleMania. That would have been awesome. What a fucking statement that would have been. Like, that was the only reason why I thought her winning the chamber made sense. Like, nobody else I could see makes sense. Alexa Bliss is possibly joining the Wyatt Six. They've made that clear. And everybody else is intertwined in their own stories. And plus, with Roxanne and Bayley having their rivalry as well, I'm not saying that should be intertwined with the Rhea and Roxanne story, but they should have finished that off on like a Monday Night Raw. Like but yeah, the chamber match was just put together so fucking poorly. And what sucks is that Mr. Blood is right. The women's matches at WrestleMania are so fucking good, but the story sequence and how they build it is just so fucking poor. So, Triple H, you really got to fucking work on that, bro.
I think they booked themselves into a corner. I think they booked themselves into a corner by underbooking the women's chamber match. And because of the participants that they booked themselves in with, they didn't know how to book themselves out of. Because why else would you have the winner who's already involved in a story you literally triggered at the start of that chamber match? The winner. And now in a separate story that has nothing to do with the other story. I think they booked the wrong competitors in the chamber. I think that's the problem. And because of that, they're like, well, shit, we've got to make this more interesting, more athletic, more of a shock so people remember this build. And it because they've been criticized for having horrible women's builds to Mania the last 4 or 5 years. They have had some of the best women's wrestling on the planet at Mania, but everybody has said the builds have been terrible for each one of those matches. So they're like, well, if we just shock them on the way to Mania and put the title on someone else, okay, well, if you were going to do that, then why did you have Rhea beat Liv for it? Io could have beat Liv for it, and then Rhea could have been in the chamber, won the chamber, and then challenged Io at Mania. You still get to Io versus Rhea. It didn't have to be this way. If that was the case, Io should have beat Liv. Then the whole sequence of who's in the chamber changes. You don't got to force Bianca into a whole other story she doesn't belong in. You get Rhea in the chamber, which is going to pop itself. Then she faces off and chooses Io, which is going to be another pop because that's a match people do want to see. Bianca's got her own story. And we still get to Io Rhea at Mania for the workhorse match in the women's division. And Rhea can finally beat Io there. And then you can still tell that story of you've never beaten me with just Rhea and Io on their way to that, but it's Rhea chasing Io. That's how it should have been. But they booked themselves in the corner.
Toxic, did you have something to add? All right, let's move on. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the Cody Rhodes promo because Cody Rhodes showed up on Monday Night Raw and he had some interesting things to say. He continued talking about John Cena and he mentioned, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is something that we can sit here and debate and try to fantasy book all night long, but I want to keep it short for the sake of time. Cody Rhodes address the tweet that John Cena put out, something along the lines of, I'm actually going to pull up the tweet to get the right quote, but John Cena basically says, you got to do what you got to do even if you don't feel like it. And that part right there really stood out to me, which kind of goes back to what we talked about. I believe it was last week or one of the previous shows where we said I think The Rock may have something on John Cena that made John Cena do what he did. And it wasn't really up to him. It wasn't really John Cena's decision to do this. I think it was kind of like a blackmail thing, but I thought that really stood out. The other thing that Cody mentioned was, the number 17. John Cena's coming after it. He wants to become the 17-time world champion or WWE champion, but it's not going to happen. Um, Cody Rhodes talked about it on Friday. He talked about it again tonight, but it was still a really good promo, even though he was still addressing the situation that happened at Elimination Chamber. I just want to get your quick thoughts, really quick, if any, about this Cody Rhodes promo. Let's start with you, Tommy, first this time.
It was not his best. It really wasn't. I kind of wish it was better, but it just simply was not his best because his main thing was just to go after Cena and The Rock and Travis Scott because yeah, he was there. Might as well bring him up again, even though all he did was just mess you up a little bit. That's pretty much it. Other than that, that entire segment would have been better without him. But overall, here, it just was not his best promo. I honestly think that one of his best promos was when he got super, super emotional towards Kevin Owens. That, I think, was one of his best promos. This one, I would say, it's on that lower register because it's just not that good.
Yeah. I also think that besides the fact that it was Madison Square Garden, and it's good to have star power on a show like this, which by the way, it was sold out 360 all the way around. I mean, there was not one empty seat in that whole building. So it's Madison Square Garden. You get Cody Rhodes, you get one of your biggest stars out there. It adds more star power. He talks about John Cena. Also, he kind of makes the announcement to kind of remind everyone that John Cena is coming back next week in the European tour. So we will see John Cena next week as well. So I think those were the main reasons why we had Cody Rhodes on Monday Night Raw tonight. Also, by the way, Monday Night Raw is going to be changing schedules next week because of the European tour. So I think because of all of that, Cody Rhodes was there. But let's go with you, Blood, next. What did you think about the Cody Rhodes promo tonight?
I think it was serviceable. I don't think it was by any means his best. I think his promo last week was leagues and bounds above this one. Um, I think, yeah, this was basically him just trying to sell him, advertise, their feud because obviously Cena's on a limited date schedule right now. So he's basically doing all the work, kind of doing the the build for them on the way to Mania, which is checks notes a month and a week from now. And I think it was fine. My thing is that I think the only part of this promo that was really memorable was what he said at the very end when he's like, "John, things have changed. I'm the face now, or whatever it is." And I think that if John's not going to be there to help build uh, the story, and Cody's got to build it on his own, then Cody's got to get more fired up to keep this feeling like can't miss. Otherwise, I mean, why fly the man all the way, to New York City for 4.5 minutes? Um, Other than that, I mean, it was fine. It was really, it was bad. It was fine. It was fine. My problem is that his promo last week was so good, and the promos he was cutting in his previous feud against Kevin Owens were fucking phenomenal work. That when you have those in the bag, and you know he's got them in the bag because you've heard them, and then he comes out here to basically do a 4 minute, 4.5, 5 minute advert where his promo is just as long as his entrance, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, you could have just given me the cliff notes and a backstage segment. This didn't require the dog and pony show coming out, the pyro, waiting for the commercial break to come back from for the people who don't have ads. Because on my Netflix, I sat there and watched his whole entrance, and then for 3 straight minutes on a countdown timer in the corner, I watched him walk around the ring, placate, say hi to fans from 3 straight fucking minutes, and then get to the fucking promo, which was like 4 minutes. And I was like, dude, I just watched you come out here for a total time of like 12 fucking minutes between entrance, the wait, then the actual promo for you to advertise shit I already knew because I knew about the March 17th thing a week ago because I said it on this podcast a week ago. And then I knew Travis got hitched in the face. We talked about that a week ago. You mentioned it in your promo a week ago. Why are you out here? And I love Cody. I love seeing Cody. But in my opinion, what a waste of a drive to fucking to on his tour bus to New York City because this could have been a backstage segment or recorded from his house or some shit via satellite. Take one out of the Rock's book, you know?
Damn, not a. I mean, can you imagine the fans there were happy to see Cody though? I mean, I would have been.
Yeah, but I didn't pay $400 a seat to see it for 4 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
I came for the. If anything, the reason people were in that building tonight was they wanted to see that steel cage match. So
Nah, they
other
wanted to
than
see
that,
Logan Paul. No, I'm kidding.
uh,
All right, BT and then Toxic.
Thanks, Snug. Uh, yeah, this promo, dog shit. I'm sorry. It. I'm starting to get really sick and tired of defending Cody as a babyface as a whole because now I'm finally seeing the truth that he just isn't a good fucking babyface. Like he's there to say hi to the kids and all that, but he's not a fucking John Cena. He just isn't. I mean, with this heel turn that John Cena has done, it's making people talk about John more than Cody. Like everybody else that has been involved in the feuds with Cody at the moment has been talked about more than Cody's title run ever has. Like, and that's just so fucking sad. It's so sad to see that. You know what I mean? But yeah, he's leagues and bounds better as a fucking heel than he is as a babyface. And he does not do the babyface role better than any other person, in my opinion. Like, again, hell of a market seller, hell of a person to greet the kids, hell of an idol for kids to look up to, but yeah, it's just starting to get a bit stale at this point. So if John doesn't beat Cody at WrestleMania after all of this stuff, like him teaming up with Rock, I feel like him doing all of that is just pointless.
No, he's
Like
not. Cody's gonna win.
We've given Cody a full year with that title. Just at this point, let John have number 17. Like, I'm sorry, but I just don't know if I can get through another WrestleMania with Cody being on top as this undeniable babyface. Like we saw it last year against Roman. I don't need to see it again against John. I don't. I just fucking don't. Just give John that fucking title at this point. So those are my thoughts.
well, how would you feel if they turned Cody heel and then the super babyface role got taken by Jay?
That would be 10 times better than the shit that we got now.
Jay's just as over with the fans. Cody's more over with the kids. Jay's over with everyone.
Fuck Jey Uso.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's move on because we're running out of time. Toxic, saving the best for last. Thoughts on this amazing Cody Rhodes promo? I don't care what none of y'all say. Cody Crybaby for life. He's gonna win again at WrestleMania. But what did you think, Toxic?
Okay, two things before I actually start. One, fuck you, Snug. Two, I agree, Cody Crybaby for life. Now we'll get to the point. I already don't like this feud, and it's not because of Cody. It's because of John. They could at least make him do, like, recordings, like, I think it was Blood that said it. Like, they could have him record whatever he's got to say from wherever the hell he's at. I just don't like this feud already. It's going to get more interesting next week because they're under the same roof, and it's going to be hell of a lot better than what we've seen since John has won the Elimination Chamber and turned heel. So, yeah.
I would like a caveat. The fact that John isn't here all the time and they're not cutting promos against each other and having angles against each other all the time doesn't make the feud worse. Because if that's the case, the last two WrestleManias with Cody v. Roman should be considered terrible. Let's not forget, the first time they went at it before Mania, they were face to face, what, twice for the entire build? And the rest of it was built up by Paul Heyman and Cody. And last year, the majority of the time that feud was being built, it was Cody talking to The Rock. It was mostly between Cody and The Rock. And then Roman there sometimes, once, twice. And they still go on to have two back-to-back bangers. So the build isn't bad because John's not there. John doesn't have to be there for Cody to sell it. They just need to give Cody more time to work with than a 4-minute advert and have him really put the shit over. I think this feud kicks into a much higher gear after we hear from John Cena next week, see what his new presentation, if any new presentation, what that's going to be like. And then so we can get a feel for the other side of this feud, which is John Cena's new shit. Once we see that, I think this feud is going to straight up.
Well, talking about terrible feuds, the other things that we saw tonight on Monday Night Raw was Jey Uso versus Grayson Waller. Jey Uso won, but got attacked by Gunther after the match. And then we had Logan Paul called out AJ Styles, but they got Andrew Schultz, I can't even pronounce his last name. He got involved in this segment. Then we had the New Day versus the LWO. The New Day won after a mysterious, unknown masked wrestler got involved in the match. And we had Big Mommy Cool Raquel versus Bayley. Raquel won because, of course, she did. She's the greatest female wrestler on planet Earth today. And that was Monday Night Raw, you guys. Overall, exciting stuff that we got here. Yeah. Thank you guys so much once again for helping me go over Monday Night Raw. Until next time, you guys, thank you, Mr. Blood. Thank you, Toxic. Thank you, Tommy and BT Knight. My name is Edgar. I'm the host of Snug Wrestling Podcast.